What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Lifting and Heels podcast. I'm Rachel and I'm here with my co host, Heather. And today we're going to talk about stress, how we deal with it, some things that have helped us, and then some things that we also struggle with. So, Heather, how do you handle stress exactly? Like mental, emotional, physical? Like, what do you do that you think helps you? But then, what are some things that maybe you struggle with or you've been wanting to work on yourself?
So stress, I'm like super excited that we're talking about this because this is one of my favorite topics. I usually don't like, I'm a kind of push through it type of person. I tend to, I don't really think about the stress of it. I'll just go, power through it and then kind of deal with the, effects afterward. And unfortunately, I learned in 2020, there's a lot of the times you don't think emotional stress is a stress because you usually just kind of think of, physical, mental, whatever. But in 2020, I had a lot of emotional stress and I learned the hard way that you can't just power through stuff like that. Like that's more of like a short-term solution, definitely not a long-term solution. And I learned, like I got kind of knocked on my ass from like just an energy level, I felt really super drained. It was just, I learned definitely the hard way. So now this has turned into, I learned a lot from it. So this has turned into one of my favorite topics. So what do I do when I notice, stress is starting to creep in? 100%, I will just make sure I take a deep breath. And from a physical standpoint, it calms your body down. You breathing like that, it affects the major nerve that runs through your body, which does lower your cortisol level. It just kind of goes like your body's like whoosh. So I try to just make sure I take a deep breath. And something small, but actually does make a big difference, is I make sure I take that breath with my stomach and not my chest. And this sounds, without getting like a little like too technical, the reason is that when you breathe with your chest, which a lot of people do, it signals more stress into your body. Whereas if you breathe through your belly, it actually is the opposite. So I just doing that.
Interesting.
Yeah, it'll change. Like you just feel your whole body just is like, we'll start with that's my step one. And I'd say step two, instead of how I used to just power through stuff, I try to, be aware of when I do get stressed. Like be more aware of it and take actions to like calm it down a little bit. And then there are certain supplements I take too on top of that I've noticed a tremendous difference in just handling my, like when I know my stress, like I'm having like a stressful week coming up, I take them and it makes a world of difference.
What do you take?
So I take L-theanine. It's an amino acid, and I can't remember what to be like. I don't know what dose I take. So I have to look because I've like slowly weaned myself off, like kind of cut the level in half as I've like kind of de-stressed my life more. But I take it twice a day, and it actually is like a natural Prozac, believe it or not. It literally like, I don't know the technical part of it, but it does. It probably, I think it increases dopamine levels in you. I could be wrong on that, but one of your neurotransmitters, it increases. And I believe maybe it's GABA, but whatever it is, it does just kind of chill you out. It doesn't, not like a sedative effect. It's not like you drink a glass of wine by any means. It's just, you don't like, you're just less stressed. That's the only way I guess I can describe it. I do take glycine at night. I take 3 grams of it. Again, it's amino acid. I don't take any like medications or anything for stress. Everything's natural, vitamins, aminos. Glycine has a calming effect. I take it at night because it does help me go to sleep. So, if I did have a stressful day, taking that kind of helps like knock you out. And just like the more you sleep, the deeper of sleep you get into, the more you can recover from, like any stress, any bad effects of stress from the day before. And I've taken passion flower. A lot of people don't know about passion flower. It's just like an herb tincture. That calms you down as well. Again, I use it when I fly, especially, but it does just like, you're just not stressed. That's the only way I can describe it. It's not, you're still, you have energy, you're not sleepy. But you're just chill. And then I am also a proponent of CBD oil on certain occasions. But how about you?
So, I mean, I'm going to be 100% transparent here and say I do not handle stress well whatsoever. Whatsoever. I'm the type of person that will literally be go, 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 and just keep adding more and more and more and more to my plate because I don't know whether it's like a fear of missing out. I don't know whether it's like an imposter syndrome type of thing. But for
Mhm.
me, if I am not constantly busy, if I am not constantly trying to do things to better myself or working or doing just anything and everything that I possibly can to try to create more for myself, I don't feel productive. I don't feel like I am doing everything that I possibly can to create the life that I want for myself. Um, so in turn, that adds up very, very, very quickly. And for me, I tend to add a lot and just keep dealing with that over time and kind of putting it on the back burner, I guess,
Uh,
until finally I explode. And that's
yeah.
definitely not a way to handle it. It's been something that I've been working on personally, um, learning a little bit of balance and learning how to relax a little bit. I've just always been the type of person that does not like to sit still. I don't
Mhm.
like to, you know, watch TV often. I don't like to just sit around and do nothing.
Yeah, same.
That it's just that's just how I am. Now, granted, every once in a while after I've been, going and going and going, then yes, I want some time where I can just chill, but I need like a day. That's it.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
like for
But
example,
those days are important that like those things, those like rest days are so important.
oh, for sure. They're important for your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health. I mean, all of it. I mean, even like this week I had off of the salon for a whole week.
Oh,
And
that's so nice.
it was nice, but I think on like day 3, I was
Yeah, where you just
sitting
like
here like,
die.
what in the world am I doing? Like I would find things to do that didn't even really need done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, let me go reorganize this cabinet that I haven't touched in like 2 years that really doesn't need anything whatsoever, but I'm going to reorganize it just because.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I 100% know what you mean.
So it's nice having that, after, I mean, I'm used to working like 50 hours a week or more. Um, so it's nice to have that time and everything, but it's also just very weird. So for me, I think I handle stress just from sleep. I try to get as much sleep as I can. I mean, I'm not one to stay up late whatsoever. Like usually I'm out by like 11 o'clock at the latest, and I'll wake up anywhere between 7 and 8:30 on my own, usually. But
That's
then
impressive.
it's
It's
not,
impressive to do
no.
it by yourself. Like I would just be so afraid. I have so much anxiety going to bed without an alarm that I would wake up like like 3 days later. You know
Oh
what I
no.
mean?
Oh, I still set an alarm just in case because
Oh,
I'm
you
the
do?
type of,
Oh, okay.
oh, for sure.
Okay.
That's another part of stress that I think like we should talk about too is like people who over worry. Like you said, you don't really worry about like a whole lot. You're kind of like very chill. And it's funny because, you know, people have said to me, like, oh, you seem like so chill. You seem like totally relaxed and everything about everything. Like nothing really seems to bother you. And I'm like, you have no idea the crap that goes on inside my head on a daily basis. Like I over worry everything. And when I say everything, I'm talking about like things that don't even matter. Like, did I forget this at the grocery store today? Oh, I'm gonna have to go tomorrow. Oh, I have to do this, 2 months from now. I need to start planning that out now. Like just things like that, to where I over worry about things that I don't need to worry about.
See, I
And
didn't know that.
oh, for sure. I know. Well, it's funny you say that because literally everyone says that to me, like, oh, you seem so chill. And I'm like, no, I'm really not. I promise you. Like, I'm as type A as you can get, like overly type
That's so
A.
funny.
So for me, the checklists help for me, having things planned out helps like mitigate stress for me.
Mhm.
Which in turn, if things get thrown off plan, that like stresses me out, of course.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. That's like the good and the bad of like checklists. Like I need them because then they like organize my life, because then I like my memory is terrible. Like I don't want to say that it's terrible, but if I'm not fully paying attention to you and you tell me something, I'm not going to remember it. It like
Right.
literally goes in one ear out the other, and it's gone forever. And where everything else goes in my brain that I forget. And so I have to write stuff down. However, in my head, everything that I want to do takes 10 minutes. So I will literally put 100 things on my to-do list thinking that they can be done today. And it can't, because 3 out of those things take 2 or 3 hours to do. So my list never gets completely finished, but it's because of how I put it together. Do you know what I mean? Like,
For sure. Yeah.
and like, that's one thing I definitely have to work on, because then it becomes almost like a thing of stress. Like it de-stresses me for writing it down, but at the same time, I'm staring at a list with 100 things. And I'm like, my God, at 4 o'clock, I realized I got 3 things done on it. And there's 97 more things to do. And I'm like, this is never going
Right.
to happen. And
Yeah.
so I have a love-hate relationship with checklists, but they're unfortunately, like they're a necessity for my
For
life,
sure.
like, for me.
For sure. And I think, you know, over time you kind of learn, what works best for you and what,
Mhm.
like, you kind of learn your own patterns. Like you may not
Yes.
do things intentionally, but you learn over time, like, okay, I'm going to say this will take 15 minutes for myself, but in the back of your mind, like it's going to take a half hour. Like
Yeah.
you just know.
Mhm.
Like for
You have
me,
to be real. Yeah. You have to be like realistic with yourself.
oh, for sure. And like for the longest time, I had trouble with like being on time to things. Like it didn't matter what it was. I would say like, "Oh, I only need an hour to get ready and I'll leave
That is my
15
life.
minutes early cuz it'll only take me 5 minutes to get there." And for me, I would always be like 5 minutes late. I'm like, "It's 5 minutes. What am I doing wrong here?" So now I just tell myself, if I have to leave, say at like 7:45, I tell myself I have to leave at 7:30. Like, and I almost make myself believe like I have to leave at 7:30 because I know I'm going to take that extra 15 minutes to just
Mhm.
do whatever it is. I don't know. For me, I come up with like the most random things to do before I have to leave because in my
Oh,
brain at the
100%.
time they're like a necessity. I don't
Oh,
know.
the worst thing for me is to like, if I'm running early, getting ready, okay, and I realize I'm running early, game over. I will be
Oh,
half hour
girl.
late, no matter what,
Same.
because I could be going like 20 minutes early. I'm like, oh my God, I'm on time. All of a sudden, I find something that takes an hour that I do. And then all of a sudden, I'm a half hour late. I'm like, how the hell did that happen? How did I go from one thing to like being early to late? And my friends all know it. It's like, I'm at least, my whole life is 15 minutes late at the very least. It's like,
That's
it's the
funny.
worst thing like, I just can't help it no matter what I do.
No, I'm the same way. It's funny. Like I'm kind of the same where if I know I'm running early, I will like take extra time on something because I'm like, oh, I
Mhm.
have all this time. Like if I really wanted to like make
Exactly.
my makeup look great that day, normally my makeup takes me
Mhm.
like 10, 15 minutes tops. If I really wanted to go all out, I'm like, oh, you know what? I have like, an extra half hour. Somehow that half
Mhm.
hour flies by. I'm watching
Yes.
YouTube. I'm listening to
Exactly.
Spotify, like jamming out, like singing in my makeup brush. And then all of a sudden I'm like,
Exactly.
oh shit, I have to leave in like 2 minutes. Where
Mhm.
did the time go?
Exactly. And then like at that point in